glad to be with you today, and we have an exciting topic. We are going to be talking about cruising. So today I have put together a whole list of cruise FAQs, a whole bunch of things that you may want to know about cruising. So the title is Cruise FAQs, 12 Things You Really Need to Know. And actually, I think it's 13 things. Anyway, I had 12 and then I added another one that I thought of. And so actually, I think we're at 13. So here you go. You get a bonus one too. But if you have never cruised before, this will be like so awesome. Such amazing information for you. If you have cruised, you may still learn something. So let's jump in and talk about cruising. A whole bunch of questions. These are questions that I often get, and I am just giving you a bunch of answers that I tell people. All right, first of all, what is cruising like? So cruising is like a resort that moves you to a new destination while you are sleeping. It's amazing because you can unpack once and either enjoy a relaxing day at sea or a new port. There's always something going on, always. But you don't have to necessarily join in. If you feel like you would rather just be relaxing or doing your own thing, you totally can do that. You do not have to, join in with the activities or things that are going on. But if you want to find something to do, there's always options. So I also need to clarify, I am only talking about ocean cruising in this episode. So not even touching on river cruising at all, only oceans. And I'm going to show you a bunch of different cruise ships as we go along. This one in this picture, if you are watching the YouTube video, this is a Carnival cruise ship. The one on the first slide was an MSC cruise ship. All right. Question number 2, will I get seasick? Yeah, you might. Not necessarily. If you are one that is prone to getting motion sickness with other activities, for example, even car sick or airplane sick, or when you go on rides at amusement parks or places like that, then you may get motion sick, but not necessarily. Today's modern ships are very large and they are designed to really minimize the motion that you feel. So a lot of people never even notice hardly the motion of the cruise ship. Like it's just like a passing thought and they hardly even notice it. But if you are one that is prone to motion sickness, here are some tips. Midship for a cabin. Midship is best. Also, lower down is better than a higher up cabin. Sometimes you think, oh, I want to be in as high of a cabin as I possibly can so that I can get a good view out. Well, if you are prone to motion sickness or think you might be, then maybe you would want to be lower down in a cabin rather than higher. And also bring meds. Just bring stuff. If you think that you might be prone to motion sickness and you don't know for sure, bring medication. I know years ago when I went on an Alaska cruise, in looking at the itinerary, I thought, well, the whole time we are going to be pretty close to shore. So for sure, nobody will get seasick. So I was going with a group of other people and I thought for sure people won't get seasick. Well, I am one that is very prone to motion sickness. And so I knew that I get motion sickness when I'm on a boat, when I'm out in the ocean. And so, but looking at this Alaska cruise, the way that the ship sails, I thought it's just going to be so close to the coast. I may not even have to take anything. Well, that first night after we pulled out away from the coastline, away from the dock, I was totally sick that night. So I started taking my meds and I had a great cruise the rest of the time. So you never know. You never know. Of course, my husband is one that he can cruise in any type of weather on any type of ship. The ocean can be rocky or smooth, and he just takes it all in stride and nothing bothers him, doesn't even notice it. So you could be like me, you could be like my husband, or somewhere in between. But just take meds with you if you think that you might be prone to motion sickness, and then problem solved. I've gone on lots of cruises in spite of my motion sickness, and they're awesome. They're super fun. All right, what is included with your cruise? So there is a lot that is included. Not everything is included, however. So some of the things that are included, of course, your cabin, your stay, the main dining room, and the buffet, plus some other a couple of other choices. So this is a picture of a main dining room on a cruise ship. And as you can see, it's like a big, nice restaurant, like a big, nice sit-down restaurant with a menu, and you order from the menu. There's choices. There's different options every night. There's different courses to order from. So that is included already with your cruise. Also, the buffet is included with your cruise. Usually there's a couple of other options like casual dining types of things that are included with your cruise. Also, entertainment. The shows, the music, activities, different things on board are included. There are often some entertainment things that are not included as well, so check with your individual cruise. Of course, the pools and the fitness center are included. Now, not included, there are additional restaurants which are not included. We call those specialty restaurants. It might be a steak restaurant, a seafood restaurant, a different it might even be a restaurant from land that they have brought onto the ship. And so for those restaurants, you have to pay an additional surcharge. So just know that, that's a possibility on your cruise. And if you want to pay additional for some other restaurants, you totally can. If you don't ever want to, there is plenty of dining options that you can take advantage of. Your shore excursions are not included. So anything you do as you get off the ship and shore excursions and fun things that you do are not included. The gratuities go to pay for the onboard staff, all of the dining staff that help you out in the dining room and in the buffet and all of the areas that way, your room steward that takes care of your room, all of the people on board get to share those gratuities that you pay. Wi-Fi is not included, and beverages other than water, coffee, tea, and milk with meals. So if you want to drink soda, if you want to drink alcohol, if even non-alcoholic mocktails, those types of things, then you will want to either have a drink package or you can just pay individually. Like if you think you might only have a couple on your whole cruise, then you may not want to pay for an entire package. But if you want the unlimited option, then you probably would want to look into a package. Okay, is a cruise right for me? People ask. So here's what I say. Cruising is great if you want to visit multiple places and only unpack once. If you want to see a lot of different things, it's awesome. If you like having a plan without having to create everything yourself, like you just go in and choose the itinerary and the ship that you want to go on, and that's kind of your plan already there for you. If you want an easy vacation that is taken care of, a cruise is fantastic. Also, I love cruises for multi-generational trips, like family trips, either with parents and kids or with grandparents, parents, kids, with cousins, with family reunions, those types of things, because there are so many different things. There's such a variety of things to do that cruises are really great for those types of vacations. And cruises have kids clubs and things to keep the kids entertained. So it's really good for all ages if you're taking a group of people that are different ages. Also, it's really good for big groups like singles groups on cruises before, or even kids' school groups that want to go on cruises, senior trips with kids that want to go. So there are so many great applications for going on a cruise. But on the other hand, it might not be the best fit if you really like to have a lot of flexibility and spontaneity on your trips. Like if you are one that is more of a free spirit and you just want kind of the trip location figured out, but you don't want anything planned and you just kind of want to get up and go and do whatever you feel like, then a cruise may not be the right fit for you, because there are schedules. There are, certain dining times. There are certain times that you have to be back to the ship. There are some scheduled types of things on cruises. And so that might be a little tight for you. If you want to spend more time in destinations, like if you really want to get to know a certain destination and you only have a day there to spend, then that might not feel super comfortable. It might feel a little restrictive for you. Or let's be real. If you don't want to really be around other travelers, if you want something that's a little less social, a cruise is a fairly social activity. Doesn't have to be. You can totally be on your own as much as you want to, but there are people around. Let's face it, there's going to be people around. So a cruise is an awesome option, but it may not be for everyone. So definitely don't do it if you feel like it's not the right fit for you. All right, here's another big question. Do I need a passport? Okay, here is the real answer. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I know you might think that you always need a passport for a cruise, but technically you do not need a passport for most cruises that start and end in the US. Yes, you heard me. So even if it's a Caribbean cruise, if it starts and ends in Florida, then you probably most of the time would not be required to have a passport to board a cruise. So that is a good perk about cruising versus, just flying to an international destination. Either way, whether a passport is required or not, I always recommend it. A passport is the easiest, by far easiest document to have when you are cruising. So if you don't have a passport, if you are just using documents other than a passport, then you need a driver's license plus a birth certificate, plus if you're a woman with your married name and your maiden name are two different names, so your birth certificate and your driver's license say two different names, then you have to bring also a copy of your marriage certificate. So that is three things: birth certificate, driver's license, and marriage certificate in order to board a cruise. So it's just a lot, right? To have to think about and to make sure you bring all of that with you. Versus if you have a passport, all you have to do is bring that little passport book with you. And that is pretty great. I'll tell you a story. I am really glad that a few years ago that both a passport and other documents are allowed, because we were going on a cruise as a family and my son-in-law accidentally left his passport in the suitcase that the porters were taking to our rooms. So when you first get there, you get out of your transportation, whatever it is, and you're going through the boarding process and everything, you need to have your documents with you, of course, as you go through the boarding process so that they can check everything off and make sure you're you and all of the things. And so my son-in-law accidentally left his passport in the suitcase that he had left with the people that were going to load our bags onto the ship. Well, since we left them with them, there was no way of getting that suitcase back. It was going onto the ship without us and without him. He had no passport. So it was really crazy. It was very scary, very crazy. We thought for sure that he would not be able to board because there was no way for him to get his passport because he didn't have it with him in his hand. And they have to be able to check your documents as you are boarding. Luckily, his parents were able to text him a copy of his birth certificate so that he could use the birth certificate plus his driver's license that he did have to board the ship. So just a word to the wise, be very aware of making sure you have the right documents. Okay, when is the best time to book a cruise? All right, the best time to book a cruise, I will always tell you, as early as possible. Does that mean if I know I'm gonna go on a cruise for my child's graduation in a year and a half that I should already book it? Yes, absolutely. Does that mean that if I know that I want to go on an Alaska cruise in 2 years from now, that I should book it this early? Yes, book it. Does that mean that if I'm 6 months ahead and I think, but what if some last minute deals come up, I should still book it? Yes. As soon as you know that you are going to be going on that cruise, you should book it. Absolutely. That is always 100% going to be my recommendation. Now, the reason for that, you get the best availability, the best cabin selection. You get to decide where you are on the ship. There is so much to choose from, especially if you want something like connecting cabins or if you want to be on a certain deck or in a certain location. So it's really great for location, but it is also really great for prices. Yes, I am serious. Even if you are 2 years out, we can book your cruise for you, and then I always have a cruise guarantee. This is the best ever. That you can book your cruise 2 years out, and then I keep watching the fares and the deals and the promotions and the sales, everything that comes along for your same cruise, even after you've paid the deposit, and to see if there is a better sale or a better promotion that comes along. If there is, I jump on that for you. I get you that better deal. And sometimes the cruise price can change like 3 times, 4 times between when you initially book and when you make the final payment. So it is such a good idea to book as soon as possible. You get all the best perks. There are, most of the time, cruise lines have like early booking bonuses and all kinds of different promos and things going on, booking early, booking ahead of time, because they want to incentivize you. Plus, you get my guarantee that I'm going to always be watching the prices and rebook it for you if the price goes down. Yes, there are sometimes last minute deals. Yes, definitely. And if you are in that situation that you just want me to help you look for a last minute deal, I will do my absolute best, and I will look at everything to try to find you that best deal that is out there. The selection isn't as good. I'm just going to say, if you want to be near a certain cabin or, near somebody else in your group or something like that, that may not be possible. Or if you want, the other thing that books up really fast are the cabins for triple occupancy. Those book up the quickest out of any configuration on board, because it's so much easier for the cruise ship to have either 2 people in the cabin or 4 people in the cabin than it is to have that odd number of 3 people in the cabin. So they have fewer of those that allow triples. So that is just a weird thing that is so true. But if you have like a special request like that, or something that might be a little trickier, I would say for sure book early so that you can get all of the best availability and the best pricing. And there is really no downside to booking early. Plus, you can pay it off in installments, and you don't have to wait till the very last minute to, when your final payment is due, to pay everything off in full if you want to. So it's a great time to book a cruise as soon as you know that you're going to go. All right. Here's another question. Will the cruise ship leave me? Yes. Yes, it will. I know you're important. I know you're wonderful. Both of those things are true. You are important and you are wonderful, but cruise ships run on a fixed schedule. They are not going to just wait for somebody, regardless of whether you are boarding the ship late to begin with, regardless of whether you are getting back late from being in port. You need to be really aware of the schedules and when you need, when your flight needs to arrive so that you can board the ship, and when you need to be back to get back on the ship at the end of a, port call. That is a big deal because you could get left. Now, there are some happy circumstances. This was a really weird, fluky thing that I had some clients a couple of years ago that were going on a cruise out of LA, and they checked in on the cruise ship and then they got back off because they realized that they didn't have her insulin for her diabetes. They hadn't brought any insulin with them. And so they got back off the cruise ship to find a drugstore to, and they were having her doctor call in the prescription and get what they needed and everything. So they got that, but by the time they were going to board again, the ship had pulled away and left them. The rest of their family members and everybody was all sailing away without them. So I was able to get them a flight into the next port, and they were able to board the ship in that next port. Now, that does not always happen. The reason that worked out for them is they had already checked in. So the ship was already planning on them being there. They already knew that they were there originally, but they just missed their boarding on that day. So that doesn't always happen. That's not always a happy circumstance that you will get to have. But luckily, in their circumstance, it did work out, and they were able to just join the rest of their family members and get on the ship the next day. So please pay attention to the schedules of when the ship needs you to board. Even though the ship is sailing away by a certain time, that doesn't mean that they will leave the doors open until that time. Usually they close the doors at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours before that boarding time. So now I hope I'm not scaring you with all of these stories and worst case scenario types of things. If you are working with me, I will definitely make sure that your flight arrives in time. I will make sure that you know all of the times that you need to be places. And that is just something that I help take care of and really am good at helping, like, so that that anxiety won't get you. Also, let's talk about excursions. I am going to touch on excursions in a minute a little bit more, but there are cruise line excursions versus other reputable companies that can book excursions, and they can have guarantees to get you back to the ship on time. And so I would always recommend booking those types of excursions, either book through the cruise ship or with reputable companies. Okay, next question. Do cruises feel crowded? Well, yes, they can. You're on a ship. You're on a big ship with lots of people, and so they can feel crowded. The most crowded place usually is on the pool deck during, days at sea or downtime. On the pool deck can get pretty crowded. It also can be crowded getting on and off the ship, just depending. If everybody wants to get off at the same time, there might be some crowds, or get back on at the same time, there might be some crowds. So you may want to time when you get on and off the ship, accordingly, to not get off with everybody or get back on with everybody. It does depend on the ship and where you want to spend your time. There are always quieter lounges and rooms and places. There are quieter outdoor spaces. There are always options if you don't want to be as busy. All right, how is the Wi-Fi on board? Well, to be honest, it is not perfect. The Wi-Fi is not perfect. No matter which ship, no matter which Wi-Fi you are on, because you are out in the middle of the ocean. And so Wi-Fi is good, but it is not perfect. You can usually check your emails. You can usually use social media, send messages like texting and that type of thing back and forth with people. Stuff that's harder and more hit and miss, streaming, video calls, those types of things, heavy work tasks are sometimes a lot more hit and miss. So you can plan on having Wi-Fi if you pay for the Wi-Fi package. Wi-Fi is always an addition, but just know that it's not going to be perfect on board. And sometimes people opt not to have the Wi-Fi on board because when they get into port, because that's an international destination, if you've got an international phone plan, then when you get into port, then you have the availability to be on social media or get on, just use the local international plan that you have being in a port. What is the best way to book excursions? Okay, I said that we would talk about this a little bit later, and here we are. So there are 3 choices for when you get to a port. 1, you can book excursions through the cruise line, and I would suggest pre-booking excursions if you are going to go on excursions. Number 2, you can book excursions through an outside source, an outside company that is not the cruise line. Number 3, you do not have to book an excursion at all. You can get off the ship even if you have no pre-booked excursion or no plan. So let's talk about each one of these ways. If you book through the cruise line, it is easy, it is convenient. You will get on the website and you'll be able to see, or the app, you'll be able to see all of the excursions that the cruise line offers, and it says times, it says pricing, like all the things, and you can just book it right there. The ship will not leave without you is another perk for booking through the cruise lines excursions. Now, the second way is through an independent company. Some advantages of going through an independent company, it may be a better price. They may have more unique or customized options. But please make sure that if you are booking through an independent company, that you are booking through a reputable one. I always recommend, anytime I book a client on an ocean cruise, I always recommend one specific excursion company that they can look at comparing with their cruise line, and it's a very reputable company. They guarantee to get you back to the ship on time, and they are really great. They do a fantastic job. Big groups, small groups, all private groups, all kinds of options for that. Now, the third way for excursions is to have no excursions. If you have no excursions, you can get off the ship anytime you want to, and as long as you're back on the ship before it sails away, you are just great. A lot of times people, if they don't pre-book an excursion, they want to maybe just go hang out at the beach, or maybe they want to do some shopping or something like that that doesn't really require an excursion. So there are always taxis waiting right as you disembark the ship, and you can always get a taxi to wherever you want to go, and then just make sure that you watch the time so that you can get back on the ship in time for wherever you want to be. One drawback to this is that if you want really a good sense of the place where you are stopping, then obviously if you're just kind of on your own, you may not get, you know, a lot of the local guides, the history, the things like that you will get if you book an excursion. But it just really depends on what you are looking for and what you want. Okay, should I prepay my gratuities? Now there is always an option with gratuities. Gratuities aren't ever included in the main cruise fare. So you can prepay them or you can wait and pay them on board. I always recommend to prepay them. I always prepay my own. The reason is it's just easier. It costs the same either way. You're not saving money by waiting. You're not saving money by prepaying them. Either way, it's the same price, but it's just like so much simpler to get them prepaid, I feel like. And then you check it off your list. If you don't prepay them, then on your cruise, you see them. They just add up on your onboard account and you just pay them at the end of your cruise. So for me, I would rather prepay them, and I recommend that people do that, but you totally don't have to. You can wait and pay for them on board if you would like. And the gratuities go toward all of the onboard staff that help you. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. Now, what is included with dining? So I already touched on this a little bit. Not all of your food is included. What is included is the main dining room, which this is a picture of a main dining room, buffet dining, so you can always eat at the buffet, and then there's a few casual options that are also included. The specialty restaurants are not included. Specialty restaurant is something like the seafood restaurant, maybe a steak restaurant, or a different type of restaurant that is not included with the main fare. But there is always plenty to eat, even if you don't add to your regular dining that's already included. Okay, here's our last question. What type of cabin should I book? Well, that totally depends on you. There are 3 main types of cabins, and there's lots of variations to this as well, but the 3 main types are the inside, the ocean view, and the balcony. Now, an inside cabin is, of course, in the inner hallways of the ship. They are on all decks, so some of them are low down, some of them are up high, but they don't ever have any windows. That is the main feature of an inside cabin. They are not huge. No cabin on board a ship is really huge unless you pay for the largest suites. But an inside cabin, some people love them because they're so dark in the evenings and they do not let in any light. So some people love them to sleep that way. Also, another reason people love them is because they are the least expensive option on board. And so some people say, I would rather spend my money on excursions or dining or other things on board and not worry about having a view out of my cabin. So that's an inside cabin. And like I said, there are lots of varieties of inside cabins. The second type is an ocean view. Now, an ocean view cabin, all that means is you get a view of the ocean. Sometimes it's a porthole cabin, and so it's just a round window, a round porthole window that you can see the ocean out of. Most of the time, an ocean view cabin has what we call a picture window. It is a rectangle shaped window on one of your walls, and you can look out and see the ocean or see what is out there from your, you can have a view of the ocean. So that is an ocean view. Usually the ocean view cabins are the same size as the inside cabins. It's just one of them has a view of the ocean and one of them does not. Now, the third type of cabin is a balcony. And of course, everybody has heard about a balcony cabin where you have your own individual balcony, you have your sliding glass door, you can walk out onto your balcony. There's a couple of chairs out there, usually a little table, and you can sit out on your balcony and watch the ocean go by. So they are lovely. A lot of people really love balconies and they don't sail any other way. So it's just really a matter of personal preference. The balcony cabin by nature is a little bit larger than the inside and the ocean view. Of course, there are all kinds of suites and there are some beautiful upgrades on cabins, but those are the 3 main types. Now, another thing to talk about is guaranteed versus assigned. You know how when you are booking a flight, you can get a basic ticket or you can get like a main cabin or economy ticket. So if you get the basic ticket with flying, you do not get the opportunity to know where your seat is going to be ahead of time. The airline basically assigns your seat. You get your seat when you are checking in. That is similar to what we call in cruising a guaranteed cabin. So if you book a guaranteed cabin in cruising, that means you are guaranteed that type of cabin, but the cruise line will assign you where you are. You have no choice, you have no selection at all, other than the type of cabin that you're in. So for example, you can book a guaranteed inside cabin, which usually is your very lowest price option. It's guaranteed to be an inside, it's guaranteed to be somewhere on the ship, but you have no idea where. Versus the other way to do it is an assigned cabin. Now, assigned cabin is like having, for example, a main cabin seat on an airline, or they call it economy on some other airlines. Now, this is where you get to pick your seat on the airline. And similarly, this is where you get to pick your cabin on a cruise ship. If you want cabins near somebody else, then you definitely should do assigned, because if you're guaranteed, you could be on a completely different deck, completely, one end of the ship from another, from the other people that you are sailing with. So you have no control over any of that. An assigned cabin, the price point is a little bit higher than a guaranteed, but you know exactly where you will be on board. You will have no question as to where you will be. So those are just different explanations for the types of cabins that there are, and there are lots of other variations on that. For example, there's some ships have an inside cabin with a virtual balcony. Most ships have like junior suites or larger types of balcony cabins. So there are all different types of options, but these are the two main things to know about: that you can have inside ocean view balcony, and you can book it guaranteed or assigned. And I will give you all the options. If I am helping you with a cruise, I will let you know all of the things. All right, some final thoughts. Cruising can be one of the easiest, most enjoyable ways to travel. It really can be awesome. But I really recommend that you get the right fit for you. As you can see, there are lots of different things to know about cruising. If you are curious and you still have questions, let me know. I would love to have a conversation. I love helping people figure out the best cruise fit for them. It's so fun for me to find out what you are looking for and be able to help you, find the right option for you. So have a great couple of weeks. Thanks for being with me to talk about cruising, and we'll talk to you later. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I would invite you to like, share, or leave a review. Let's help grow our wellness travel community.